Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. I hope you all enjoyed Juniper. Did you? By the sound of your voice, you enjoyed Juniper. And I hope you enjoyed the sensual performance by our guests tonight at the gate. Would you please welcome Charlotte Rampling. So I'll talk to Charlotte to start with. That's my job. And but I will throw open questions to the audience if that's allowed. They're polite and nice, which I think they will be. They will be lovely. Lovely to see a full house on a Thursday for some cinema, Charlotte. Lovely to see people coming out to the cinema.
To the cinema, and a very beautiful cinema. And you look all beautiful. So I think we're going to have a wonderful night. I hope you've had a good night up to now. Yeah.
Tell me about this woman that you're playing here. A fantastic role. Was it like that on the page? What did you do to bring the Charlotte Rampling to it?
I think she was a lot actually in there. And that's the reason I take roles, is because there is a spirit of a person that's lurking in a character that connects. Because if there's not the connection, I'm not really an actor who wants to really do very different things. I want to be part of a world that I feel that I understand emotionally, and that's not that I've necessarily been there, but that's the reason I want to play Ruth, because I've never been a war reporter. But I always imagined what an extraordinary thing that would be. You know, there'd be sort of a lot of those noises going on. So it's a marriage of minds. The character has to be something, even if it's quite extreme, something, it has to be where I would like to explore.
The character that is based on somebody maybe it's asking near. Somebody like Martha Gellhorn, if not Martha Gellhorn, the war reporter.
Yeah.
Was that someone you knew or knew of? Women like that throughout your life? Have you met people that you
I think I've met people like that, but she was quite exceptional because there weren't many women who actually went to war and did the photography of all the different terrifying things that can happen. So she was a very particular woman. So Ruth was very much that type. She could have been perhaps not as great as Martha or whatever, but that doesn't matter. It's as I say, it's the spirit of the character that you feel that you can get as close to that character as you possibly can, because you feel that if in another world you wanted to be a war reporter, you would be. And that's how I feel about the roles I play.
When I said to people, I'm going to interview Charlotte Rampling tonight, they went, oh, blimey, you'll be careful. And I've spoken to you before we came on. I'm serious. You knew it was there. You gave the doctor a bit of a dressing down in this film.
Yes.
Is it?
But very gently.
Yeah, but gently.
It wasn't as gentle as that in script. And we went further, but I'm not going to tell you that. That's behind the scenes.
Do you enjoy looking? Does that come easy? Does that barely concealed rage come out easily as a performer to you? Where do you harness it from? How much of it?
I guess, well, again, it's actually what is in you. You don't quite know that is lurking in you with a particular strength. Probably that's what screen acting, more than theatre acting, even, because you have a lot of repetition in theatre performances. But there, if it's not lurking somewhere in you, that power, you're not going to. You can do it, but you don't get quite to the height of the power of the emotion unless it's somewhere in you. You can't invent that.
It's interesting that she's a British character, that she's come from Britain and she goes to New Zealand, which you did. It was actually shot in New Zealand. Very few places look like that. Was that your first trip to New Zealand?
No, because I'm a British woman who married a New Zealander, and I have a half New Zealand son, and I've been there, so I've done the trip, but not with the background of war photography.
And so was that part of the attraction going to New Zealand?
That certainly was, because I have family there still, and my son went back and forth a lot. I think he's here tonight actually, and so it was geographically I felt connected to it because it is very far away. Obviously, just to go and do a film is quite scary.
I've always been there. It feels a bit like Britain, but a long time, Britain a while back, a long time ago.
Yeah, sort of an old-fashioned Britain,
Yeah.
isn't it? And perhaps a Britain that sort of, I was going to say works better, but maybe it doesn't. I can see that everyone was quite contented.
Right, we are in a mood of nostalgia in some way. The last week or 10 days that we've all lived through here in London, and as a nation, sort of has been looking back to that period. And it occurred to me, sort of meeting you've lived through quite a lot of those periods. You know, sort of like swinging 60s here, and this theatre was here then. Take us back to Notting Hill in the 60s. You were here a lot.
No, I'm not here to talk about that.
I don't know what you got. The films, the cinema scene that you were working with Richard Lester and Georgie Girl, those films which are kind of emblematic of that time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, what's the fun part of cinema? Even if the film isn't particularly fun necessarily, but the fun part of cinema is that you get to live so many different lives, and if you really feel that you're involved in those lives as I say, not so much as an actor point of view, but from somebody you're living the experience, and you're saying, well, this is I'm not acting, I'm being, I'm actually this. You know, the Georgie Girl character was fantastic. She was so outrageously awful and cruel and egotistical and wanted to do everything her own way. But it's an extraordinary experience to play a character like that. You know, because I could quite easily just be that, actually. But the film stops you, because there's a moment when the film stops and you have to go back to being sort of a little bit more reasonable, even in the 60s.
I say that just, I think Ruth brings all of that history with her. You know, she does in the picture books that we see on the screen, and there's even some old, I assume they are actually of you, because sometimes with these pictures they sort of CGI them and doctor them, but I presume there's enough Charlotte Rampling pictures from that era.
No, but there had to be one of me on a tank, and I haven't been on a tank. So we did a bit of doctoring and got me on the tank, you know, with a head of me at that period, sort of.
the obviously what she does, we don't have sort of, I don't know what you've got in yours. I think it's
We didn't
clear. The tippling, you know, the gin. That's an extraordinary prop throughout the movie. It sort of fuels her rage, but it's also something she leans on as a character.
Well, it's at that stage, because if a very hard-working, fast. I mean, a lot of journalists who are war reporters, you know, they can't take it without the drink. So a lot of them actually get really addicted, but the addiction can be controlled. She's a woman of my age, so she's still drinking, but the drink is she just keeps it at a level which she can actually function at. So it's not you never see her drunk, but she's had too many experiences of living fast, not just because she wants to live fast, because her work and the situation of the work made her impossible not to drink, and so you get. So that's really her situation.
Is that something that you, not only you yourself, but you know, many filmmakers, film directors, sort of hard drinking?
I don't know whether I like where this conversation.
Co-stars.
We're talking about the film.
The film itself captures a. I was going to say spirit. I didn't mean spirit.
Spirit. Yeah, I was talking about spirit before. There are different forms of spirit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, she has more than enough spirit on her own, does she not? He says,
we agree.
Bringing it back. I talked at the intro about the list of directors that you work with, from Visconti to Dick Lester and Woody Allen, Sidney Lumet, Francois Ozon. And this is a first-time director, Matthew Saville. Did you know of his work? What do you do when you sort of such experience coming to a film with a first-time filmmaker? Does that make a difference to you? Do you bring a different? Do you have to be a different?
Of course it does, because he's like a virgin, isn't he? I mean, he has made they usually they have made short films, but so you've got to find something in obviously the story, because he's auteur, he's written his own story, and it was from his experiences, not all, but he'd been writing it for a long time. So the screenplay needs to take you somewhere, far enough for the desire to be there to really participate in a film like this, because I loved the script. I thought it was, I mean, it made me cry. You know, that's very rare that a script makes you cry. And then he came over from New Zealand, because I said we really got to talk. It was through the days of talking, working on the script and going over it and elaborating and changing things. And he was delighted to do that, because I love doing that with directors. So if a director is willing to do that, then that for me is a real privilege, because I'm quite good at that. Wouldn't be good at writing on my own, but I'm writing when I'm involved with the character and seeing how it can fit into the film, etc. So that was what convinced me with it, and I really liked it too. I mean, it reminded me of the people I've met in New Zealand. That there's something special about them. Yeah.
And the young actor.
And the young actor too. They're all New Zealanders. I'm the only Brit. Yeah. They're all. And George he'd just come out of film school.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he'd written me a letter actually. We started to write letters to each other before the film started. I thought that was very beautiful.
By way of establishing a relationship?
By way of, yeah. And he was talking about, you know, his fears and this, that, and he wanted to be good, and that sort of really made it, I think, possible for a real language to start when we met and started, that he was already in confidence, and he was already realizing, you know, this is whatever age you are, however much experience you have, however much you are always a novice, you suddenly feel that you're on a project, it's a new project, and even if the experience is there to technically to help you, but the experience really isn't there for you to play the role, because you need to be a virgin to play the role. You need something completely new. So I said, I'm as new as you are. You're 18, I'm the age I am, but we're in the same place.
Is that one of your sort of preparation methods, to come fresh almost to every role?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the way I've always thought that it could only work is to actually live the moment. We say just improvise, just do it. I mean, you know what you have to sort of say, you know what the scene is about, but just to do it, because that's what we do in life. We don't rehearse as when we start to go out. Well, we sometimes do, but usually it's just on the spontaneous moment that we live the moment. Yeah.
Is that something you've learned by osmosis by doing films?
I did it because I was not trained. So I did it just gut instinct right from the beginning when I was sort of discovered on the streets, as they say. So I developed it myself, and then when I thought I would go to school, I went briefly to the Royal Court Theatre just to see what they were teaching, and realised that was good for technical things, and I didn't want necessarily to do theatre at that time, and then just found my own way.
Is there one director that particularly had an influence on your, not on your career, but on your method, on the way you approach acting?
Yeah, there were along the way. The main one, I think, was Visconti. Yeah. So I was a bit overwhelmed by that film, but I thought it's the most beautiful. I thought it was the most beautiful cinema there could be with the cinema of Visconti when I saw his films, and I didn't even know who he was when I met him. You know, sort of. Because I was I didn't know much about cinema. I was only 22 or something. I'd never seen many films.
And then that started a huge European career.
It opened the door, yeah.
But you opened the door, but then it's a door that sort of keeps on opening. I mean, I said to them at the start that you've come back from filming June 2, set in
Budapest.
Budapest.
Do you know where Budapest is? What country?
I do. It is. There is Buda and there is Pest.
Yeah, well done.
But I don't know what country it's supposed to be in June.
That's another story. The film might be worth seeing, so you'll know it.
It's a huge blockbuster. You're doing those big, and then to come and do an intimate drama like this one, or something for Francois Ozon. Do they make a difference to you? The size and scale of projects?
The scale is a bit sort of, but we're all little human beings in scale, you know. And Denis de Villeneuve is wonderfully. He's Canadian. He's a very humble man too. He's very special with his actors, and he makes everyone feel at home. But we're all just little human beings in a huge, great imagined set with extraordinary costumes and light. And you're in an imaginary world. You just go into the imagination, sort of wait your turn to be on shot, to be on camera, which sometimes takes a long time because there's a lot of us.
I think you have those amazing landscapes in New Zealand that are real and there, and then these kind of imagined landscapes.
The imagined landscapes,
The
they've got to talk now.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's time.
Yes, it's time.
For audience participation. Any questions for Charlotte Rampling? We have glamorous assistant Lee with a roving microphone. Lady on the end, absolutely first there with a question.
Thank you. I didn't think I'm going to ask a question. It was beautiful and lovely to hear you tonight. Amazing movie. I'm very moved actually. I still am recovering. What do you think of death and mortality? I mean, you're making, what did you think of, do we think of our own mortality when we do a role like that?
Yeah, of course. It's nice to have a trial round. Not all of us get that.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I thought the way she left, it's just like a nice way to sign out. And it's such a current topic, I don't know how you call it with Anisha, or such a current topic to decide when to go.
The dying with dignity, yeah.
Yes, the dying.
And to choose it oneself is hugely brave. Even if one's suffering, I think it's a hugely brave thing to do.
And I thought the character really does look like you now that I hear you live. I know you, but the energy that you had at the end, the humor, the energy, I mean, that does resemble you a lot, I think. If that's a compliment, I don't know.
You don't only have to make compliments. I'm not expecting you to even like the film, but it's wonderful to hear that people are liking this film and talking the way you are. Thank you. I'm delighted to hear it.
Thank you very much.
It's interesting that you raised that topic. I did discuss with Charlotte whether we should raise that topic, and we were going to, but I'm glad that you have, because it's very topical in cinema as well. Francois Ozon, who you worked with, he did a recent film about the same thing, which you were in.
Yeah, briefly I was in that film, yeah. I was sort of I always come in on, do a little turn in his films.
We love Francois Ozon films,
yeah.
They're very popular in this very screen. Any other questions for Charlotte? Is there the lady down here with the glasses?
Hello, Charlotte.
Hello.
Hello, hi. I'm still crying, actually.
Yeah, I can hear it.
Yeah. I would like to know which scene or which part do you like about the movie the most? And is there any scenes or any dialogues that is actually spontaneous, that is off the script, and you suddenly pop it out and you might and the director actually used it? Is there any scene that's like this? And also I'd like to know what part you like the most.
What part of the film I like the
Yeah,
most?
exactly. Yeah, from an angle as Bruce, or any parts that you think of.
I like a lot of the parts because there's such a you see this woman go on such a journey, in effect, when she comes raw in and suffering and having travelled absolutely across the earth to meet a family that she's more or less abandoned a lot of her life, and sent the boy, her son's boarding school, and her grandson she doesn't even know. So she arrives just raw, and she knows that damn well she's not going to go back, but she sort of illusions, sort of thinks she will. So you start with someone so angry and so in such pain and such not knowing how she's ever going to come to terms with anything, actually, I would say, Ruth arrives. And it's the little by little that I find so sort of beautiful. So she confronts in all violence in the first scenes with her Sam. And then little things start to happen to make it happen, so that she starts to be able to feel and see differently. So in terms of the actual scenes, I don't know. No, I don't. It's a good question, but I don't really analyze my films.
Yes, very much so. You like the movie as a whole, and then with different pieces, sort of.
Yeah, because I can't. It's all part of me. It's all part of the performance that I gave, and it's all part of it. And when I say performance you give it over a period of time of shooting, which is, I think this was 8 weeks we had. So it's actually all in bits, but all those bits are together as one, because you've made the character happen, you've got them all, but it's all in bits as you do it, which is the technique of filmmaking. And if you don't understand that, and the waiting, the patience, and the difficulties, and the cold, and the hot, and the doing certain scenes when you absolutely, you know, you don't think any energy in you left from this and that and the other. That's all part of it. So it gives the tone of each scene, that what you're actually feeling, doing of that day, and doing that particular scene. So I can't really separate all that. I'm not really good at being able to answer your question about which scene.
Was it quite a physical? I know you're sitting down, and obviously she's in the wheelchair, but there's a lot of physicality involved in that.
Well, there is, because there's a lot of lifting up and moving, and yeah. But any film is, for an actor, for all technicians too, it's a very, very tiring thing to actually do, to make a film. Very tiring on all levels, because it's not about, in any way, continuity. You have no continuity going through, so you're holding the sort of the idea of a character and the idea of who you are in bits and pieces, and bringing them out at every time that it's needed. And you don't realise how tiring it is until you end the film, and when you let go of it, and you realise that you've actually achieved something extraordinary, which is, you know, which I think for all the crew, I don't know, it is a sort of a little miracle when films are made. It really is, because it's extremely complicated, from very small films like this one, obviously, to very big ones. That has to be sort of known in a way, because it's rather beautiful. You have to really want to do it.
The film is actually more than extraordinary to me, because I don't know why, like, I came here raw as well, but like, because my friend here, he loves me very much. And
I think we'll have to let someone else talk.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I will talk.
If you can pass the microphone to the lady just in front of you there.
Do you think Ruth's, does she have any intention to develop a relationship with her grandson when she arrived, or what were her intentions, do you think? And when did it change for her?
I don't think she really had an intention, actually. I think she just knew that she was. I think it was because with her alcoholic situation too, it was like she had to go somewhere. She had to go somewhere where somebody could look after her. She could no longer be an individual being able to lead her own life. She was finished with that. She knew that. She had this cancer. She knew going to die quite soon, and she had a broken leg. So she had to. She'd get a nurse. Yeah, what was she going to do? Where was she going to go with this nurse? So and I think it's like a homing instinct. You go, but I don't think she had any. I don't think she worked out anything. I think she was a highly instinctive woman that just. But it's rather like I was talking about how filming. You just go for the moment. You just go into it. I just go into it. I don't intellectualize. I don't analyze. I go into each scene, because I know I'm absolutely trusting on my instincts that that's going to be what I need. That's what I need. I don't want anything else. It's like that with Ruth. She knew that she could only go home, even if her son, she knew that her son didn't hate her, but he was, a very different relationship, and she knew she didn't know her grandson, but she didn't analyze anything. That's what I think. Whether that makes use of, I don't know how much in terms of analysing films you need to do really as an audience. You do that yourself, but I don't think you need me to say it.
It seems to me she starts feeling. So that it comes as a surprise that she starts feeling.
Yeah.
For the
She
first
just
time.
because she's waking up out
Yeah.
of her state.
Slightly
They wake up.
Yeah.
Very anaesthetized.
You come across very matter of fact. You come across very matter of fact about things.
Yeah.
And you mentioned earlier on some of the roles you did in the 60s and 70s, they were fabulous and maybe a bit extreme, and then you're like, okay, it's over. I need to go back to Charlotte, in your life. But this role, I don't know, it feels very permanent. Not permanent in the sense like you're going to do this, Maybe your husband has discussed that with your child, I don't know, but it just feels that maybe it's not one that you can leave behind so easily, it's a time in our lives where, just things are more permanent.
But are you talking about the film or the attitude? When you say, when you're...
Probably, and I'm not talking about the end of the film where you die in the movie. Not that Ruth dies at the end of the movie, that's what's going to happen, with Charlotte Rampling. But more so maybe that it's, that this is a role you're playing in real life as well, just in growing older, what's going to happen,
absolutely,
and
absolutely.
Because
And it's more so now than it will, and it will be until gravely I depart. But if I make roles, or if I'm still wanting to be in cinema right up until the end, yes, it'll be just me.
And how do you shake that
But
off?
I mean,
Or do you
we
need to
have
shake it
other
off?
names, obviously.
On that point, do you need to shake off that feeling afterwards, or do you need to?
No, you don't need to. I've never shaken off the feeling of a film. I don't need to. No, I don't need to.
Isn't that the joy of cinema?
It's actually all those people are part of me. They've made me who I am.
Yeah.
Those people.
And those characters are still there for us all to see.
Yeah, if that's what's so
you trail them
funny,
like
isn't it?
ghosts
Yeah.
behind you,
Yeah.
and they're part of
So you might as well join them. You might as well. You don't want to eject them. We don't have eject buttons on somewhere on our body if we don't need it. You actually need to keep it all inside, a lot of that stuff, and I keep all my characters inside. They're all me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're all here. They're there. There's not much room here. We're going to lady at the back.
Charlotte, observing your wonderful and continuous career, I want to ask you if you think that women who act just have the choice to go on if they want to. I mean, is it you or any other actress that wants to go on until, I don't know, until she's very old, can do that? I'm getting to this perhaps inevitable gender question.
Gender?
Yeah.
Where does gender come in?
Because sometimes you hear about women who act that when they get older they do not get roles, that they are not able
Yeah, no,
to...
that's all. I mean, they don't, because they don't.
Yeah, so it never
I
happened.
mean, the youth is better in cinema, and older women are not so interesting because the stories are not quite so interesting. It's not commercial. There's a lot of all that around. So if you get a chance when you're young and you do it, and it's great. And if you don't afterwards get many roles, then you just have to accept it.
Yeah, but you always did get roles.
Well, I was a bit different because I wanted to be a European. So European cinemas, they come in these funny films, that are small films and some big films, and this film, a young director from New Zealand comes and asks me, why does he come and ask me? Well, he knows there's something going on there.
Yeah, as opposed to Hollywood.
Yeah, as opposed to Hollywood, exactly, yeah. And I've made my life here, yeah.
And in fact, more, when Francois was on, you started in Under the Sand, that led to a sort of more and more. I'm not sure you've ever been busier than you are now. Strange, does it feel busy?
Yeah, well, I don't know, but it's the time also of your life. Remember, I had a life to lead before I had children. Children I wanted to be with. I had a husband I loved. I wanted to be also, I didn't only want to be in films. So it's also a question of your own personal timing. Yeah.
We're going to get to the back there because we've penetrated deep into the gate cinema.
Good evening, Charlotte.
Hello.
Digging back into the past, was The Night Porter the most shocking and difficult film you ever made?
No.
No, shocking to the audience in parts.
Yeah, but it
I
wasn't
can
shocking
remember
for me.
being there.
Oh, it was
at
shocking.
the
Some
Coast
scenes were
cinemas
difficult.
and
Yeah.
the gasps of horror that went through the cinema. So you definitely, had a hit on your hands there.
What, because of the gasps?
I had a hit. Was that it? I think it was slightly horrifying, but that was
Yeah,
the
it
topic.
was.
It wasn't you.
Yeah.
But the fact that you had to lose so much weight and looked almost skeletal in parts, everyone admired the fact of your dedication of what you did in preparation.
Yeah, but it was. I don't probably naively think of the effect, and I knew this was a story that had to be told.
Yeah, oh yes.
Yeah. And however it would be told, I knew it was the Italians that were going to do it, so it's going to be kind of strange and operatic and different from say Hollywood. Hollywood wouldn't have done it anyway in that way. Although in the 70s there were some very ambitious films from idealists that actually got through, weren't there?
Yes.
It was an incredible
We'll talk about that
the
bravery.
70s, yeah, the bravery of some of those films. Night Porter was one of them for sure. But if you want to do something, you're only going to feel why. You know the reason that you're doing it, and that's what keeps you That's what keeps you in the story. You're not doing it because you think it's going to shock, or you're not frightened of it because it's going to shock. You're just you're again living the moment. You are that girl. You are that girl going through that experience. And I sort of, in a way, wanted to do that because I was born in 1946, so now you know my age, and right after the war. And it was also a way of joining in a way. So some part of that, yeah.
Was that the effect of that film? I guess you knew the power of cinema already,
yeah.
But you being in one, it was probably the one that most had an effect that you were involved in terms of the shots that it could do, the sort of the legacy it can leave.
Yeah. But I didn't even think that, because as I say, I didn't really. Until something becomes what it does, you don't do it because you're going to think. I did it for a completely personal reason. I wanted to explore that world with Dirk. I needed it because of Dirk Bogart, because he said he wouldn't do the film unless I did it, because I met him on the Visconti picture just before, and they hadn't found the girl because he had the script for 4 years and he put it away. They couldn't find the girl, and so he took me to Lily Cavani. She said, so I was doing it with him. I was not doing it alone, and he'd had very, 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 very difficult, awful memories of the war. So he was doing it because he'd done other films too about the war, but this one. So we did it together. It was like hand in hand. I said, I want to experience this with you. So it's on the level of just experience of what you could, as I said before, what you can actually experience through your work in cinema can be quite extraordinary. I think that's the bell. I think we're going to can't keep you anymore.
It was amazing. Unfortunately, we don't have time for more questions because we have another film in after us tonight at the gate. So I'm really sorry.
I just have one quick question about the film.
Oh yes, talk about the film.
This film. So you've got the microphone. In that case, you can go.
I love the title Juniper, but I know it's not better than gin and water or gin and water and lemon. But was it always the title?
Yes, it was always the title. And there was quite a lot of talk about it. Why juniper and this juniper? Because it's the plant that juniper is made of. Gin is made of. In New Zealand, they have enormous amounts of gin, and the juniper is well known. It's not so well known here. The fact that it's the gin plant, So, but I think it's a lovely sound. I like juniper. Maybe I don't know whether you like this title, but I think it's somehow you could think it's Ruth's name actually, Juniper. You could think it's the name of the protagonist of the film as well, couldn't you? In a way, it's something that it sounds good. It's a strong title. And so, but slightly mysterious probably for some. Yeah.
Well, we like the title. We like the film very much.
Yes.
And we have been absolutely thrilled to have you tonight. Thank you, Parkland, for bringing.
Thank you.
Charlotte Rampling.